Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Ozcast.
Hello, Nesters. We've let the first couple of weeks go by for assessment, and we're ready to sink our teeth into all things Eagles after the opening fortnight of the season without a win, but a much improved performance against Brisbane, of course, and some big subjects to discuss off the field as well, involving some of the biggest names in the game that are connected to our club, of course. So looking forward to this episode, Drew Jones. The first one now that the season's underway for 2025. Hello, mate.
Hello, Daniel. Can I make a big statement? If the game wasn't in ridiculously humid and tough conditions on Sunday, I reckon we win. I think we win that game. Brisbane
funny thing is,
they didn't turn up, and we were playing well, but the energy sapping nature of the way that we played, I think, worked against us. So I'm just putting it out there. I think we win that game on another day.
I think we went really hard early, and then they sort of clicked up a gear or two, and perhaps we didn't have too much left in the tank later on. Not so much physically, I think, in terms of fitness. I think just emotionally we were so ramped up early, and then it becomes hard to maintain that. We see that a lot. And then I was talking to friends about that, actually, and they're like, geez, you were hard done by the 110 Gabba game. That's rough on Eagles fans and Eagles players. I go, actually, the Chris Judd famous Gabba game was a 110 start over there, 10 a.m. in Perth, I remember fondly. So, it wasn't too bad back then. So I'm not sure we should be complaining too much, also considering the heat that we train in. I don't think it was a massive factor. I just think we went out hard and then perhaps ran out of a bit of petrol late on.
So I don't know about you, but there was just no part of me that wanted to do a podcast after the Gold Coast game.
Sometimes it's good to just let it marinate, right? Just let things set after a couple of weeks. We get so hysterical after round one, and Eagles fans were the same. But across the competition, here's some evidence, Chewy, right? If you look at the opening round in round one, that sums up how unnecessarily hysterical the AFL fraternity gets. And I get why it happens, because there's such a big build-up. We talk about comings and goings at each team and how they might go and the storylines for each side, that when it starts, you really go hard at everything that's happened. Look at opening round. Collingwood gets smashed by the Giants. Nick Dacos can't run out a half, basically, of football. The best player in the game, just about. Round one, the biggest upset we've seen arguably in 20-odd years, one of the biggest. Carlton getting knocked off by Richmond. Fremantle, who are likely to improve a lot, smashed by Geelong. St Kilda, who just beat Geelong this week, destroyed by Port Adelaide. Right. They lose by Adelaide.
Yep.
Port Adelaide embarrassed by Collingwood. West Coast destroyed by Gold Coast. Look how it all flips the week after. St Kilda beats Geelong. Port Adelaide, okay, they played Richmond, but they come out, and smash them. We respond beautifully against Brisbane. Richmond, who everyone was talking about, gets, destroyed. Carlton all of a sudden bounces back a little bit. Fremantle goes close to beating Sydney. But all of those teams were absolutely smashed to smithereens after opening round or round one. Look at Collingwood. They won 2 games since that loss to the Giants, and Nick Dacos is flying. So my point is, some of the responses to, even from Eagles fans, to what happened against Gold Coast, were just way over the top, considering it was just one game.
All that really confirms is probably what we suspected before the season started, which is there isn't a whole lot that's actually separating a lot of the competition. There's some good teams who we know. There's a few teams who are going to struggle, which we know as well, and then the middle is really tight. So the Eagles had to respond, and they were clearly G'd up, and Andrew McQualter talked about how they reviewed particularly the midfield performance really hard off the back of the Gold Coast Suns game. But the first half, and particularly early, we were so much better in the contest. And for mine, Tim Kelly played a lot better, but it was led by Liam Baker to the point where he totally gassed himself after about the first 10 minutes and was just in an ice vest, like almost paralytic on the bench. But that sort of summed up, right? Like Liam Baker comes out, who clearly him and Andrew have a good relationship. He wants to prove himself at a new club. Not happy with the performance first up. He's like, all right, boys, get on my back. I'm going to go out there, set the standard for this team. I'm in the leadership group, back up the coach, go out there, go really hard early, and to the point where suddenly we're 5 goals, 6 goals up on the reigning premiers. But that to me was massive. The fact they came out for the coach, they responded to the criticism internally and externally, and put on a good performance and put those words into actions.
Well, it was the thing that stood out the most for everyone from the Gold Coast game was that our midfield is a massive issue, and it's an area of the park that you can't afford to have a massive deficiency in. So something had to change. Baker going into the middle was the obvious move. There's no point having him at half back if we can't win the footy. And unfortunately, there isn't a lot of confidence in our ability to win enough of the contested footy with just Kelly or Reid while we're going to talk about Harley soon, but still working up his fitness levels, question marks over the ruck. You just had to put a player in there who is just a terrier, who, even if the ruck contests aren't going our way, is still a good chance to at least have a contest. So it was the obvious move. What I love about it from Minnie, and I think he's coached really well since the Gold Coast lost, in terms of his presentation and the press conferences, I think he's looked really solid in that sense after a difficult week, is that there's no stubbornness there. So we had a plan for Baker, half back. A lot of coaches might have gone, no, that's the plan. I'm sticking to this. No, he's happy to change it up to 1 week. All right, there's a deficiency here. Let's make a move. Liam, I know we talked all preseason about you playing half back. You're on ball. And then the ruck as well. So he gives Flynn the first crack. He's won the nod. He was terrible against Wits. I still think Matty Flynn can contribute something. Really disappointing first game, considering the faith that was shown in him. But now we're making the change now. Bailey Williams, you're in. So I like that there isn't that stubbornness about him really early on. And he's happy to admit see a couple of things that didn't quite work out and make the change straight away.
So I wonder how much the Graham late out had to do with the amount of time that Baker spent on ball. I've got no doubt he would have played some midfield minutes, but once Graham went out of the team, I remember thinking, oh, geez, Baker's got to play the whole game in the midfield now. Like, we're just without Jack, who was probably our best midfielder against Gold Coast. There was a massive hole, it looked like. And what if we had have turned out on Sunday and Kelly had have produced something similar to what he did the week before? Without Graham, we would have been really short of experience and obviously lacking that hardness without Graham in there. So, it was good coaching. And you called it very quickly after the Gold Coast game, and I'm sure others would have as well. But they addressed the deficiency by using Baker in there, which was the right move. And then if Baker continues to play or split his time, say this week in the Derby with Graham back, and then all of a sudden we've maybe uncovered Clay Hall can hold himself if given the role. Yeah. Because what was 7 or 8 clearances from 15 disposals, kicked a goal, like it didn't look out of place. The fact that he got a call on Saturday morning when he was probably, he's preparing for a waffle game. He's like, you got to get on a plane, mate. You're starting mid for us tomorrow. Yeah, exceptional effort from him, given the late notice. And then Tim Kelly, he showed maybe there's still some fight left in him, produced the kind of performance that we expect from him, that his pay packet demands, that his reputation demands. But, I was feeling very pessimistic about Tim Kelly after round one. So great that he responded.
Understandably so, considering his comments in pre-season about him not enjoying footy. But these round one, to go back to my earlier point, these opening round one performances can happen because we start the season so early now, and you can be a little bit cold and raw. It's no excuse. You should be 100% ready to go for the opening game, but sometimes you're just not. That's sport, right? Sometimes, for whatever reason, as much as you want it, you're just not quite in the zone. And you come up against a team like Gold Coast they were unbelievable against us, and they smash you, right? So it's about how you respond from there on in. And now from this point, to make sure it's consistent. That's the thing with TK. I mean, he was best and fairest 2 years ago, so he's done it for us across the campaign before, but he's got to maintain it now again in the Derby. But his response was fantastic, and there's reason to believe he could be a massive contributor this year as Harley picks up his fitness, as hopefully the ruck situation sorts itself out a bit more, as Baker spends more time there. If Graham comes back, you get a nuggety player like Clay Hall, who might not have the best disposal, but we don't really need that right now. We just need someone who can be up in there, right, and just win a bit of hard ball and get it out to others. So yeah, there's reason to believe that it will be a lot better in the midfield from here on in, and Kelly will be a lot better. But it is obviously our deficiency that we need to keep monitoring.
I feel for Flynn. I reckon it might have been the perfect storm against him. I think Witts might have been fired up with all the talk about Moyle losing the co-captaincy. Obviously, Flynn didn't play well, but I think he also ran into Jared Witts, who, Jared Witts holds his own against Max Gawn, Tristan Cherry, like the best rucks in the comp. And I reckon he might have been a bit fired up. It could have even been a tactic, honestly, from Damien Hardwick to get something more out of Witts. But it worked. Witts was great.
Just on Flynn, so I want to make this point and give some insight, if you will, because I've thought that Flynn could be a good contributor because I watched him closely at Gold Coast. GWS. Yeah. And it wasn't so much that he was bad, it was that Briggs just came on so well. We've discussed that before. But I was, as part of a media briefing with Adam Kingsley before the season, and Kingsley was asked, what is your one deficiency that you're concerned about? And he said, there isn't anything major. He said, I do wish we had a bona fide out-and-out backup ruck for Briggs if he goes down. That's my one worry. And he said, I wish we still had Matt Flynn. But they realised they had to let Flynn go because, the opportunities weren't going to be there if Briggs stays fit, and West Coast were offering them. But it shows that it had nothing to do with his ability, GWS letting him go. Which is why I was disappointed with how he played against Gold Coast, because Witts is fantastic. You've summed that up well. But he just doesn't seem to have that real competitiveness and fire about him. I hope he gets another chance because I think he knows it's just about his last chance when he gets it next. And I think there still could be something there. And I think we will manage the rucks a little bit more. But, hey, Bailey came in and played ever so well. So it's his position now. He
was great. And we got the normal sort of 5 or 6 Frankston references from Derek Brereton during the commentary, which I enjoyed, which he always rolls out for big, bad, bustling Baz. Hopefully he gets up and he's fit to play after pretty serious cramps. But, we know Flynn's there in reserve if required. What about my man, Tyrell?
Oh, I was waiting for this.
How good did he look? Yeah, he looked unreal.
How did he not get the rising star? What a joke. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, Connor O'Sullivan is a good player, but you had to give it to Dewar. You had to. Maybe they weren't watching.
He played well, but he's quite often the rising star. It's about what you've done before. Yeah. So Dewar's got more runs on the board from last season. O'Sullivan 100%. Played 3 games, one of which was last season, didn't do a thing. He's a first-round draft pick, so he's got talent. He's done well, fair play. But Dua Lipa's got more runs on the board. Surely it was he was next cab off the rank if they both have a really good game. So
in a couple of things on him. How much does he, or just to my eye, his kicking style, his running style, is a lot of Shea Bolton in the way that he looks, which is very exciting. But he looks so confident, which was awesome. And Andrew McQualter said after the game, hats off to him because I've played him at half forward, wing and half back across the preseason. But the reason that we've changed his role a few times is because we just want to have him in the team. So we just want to find a slot for him because we think he's got so much upside. I mean, particularly in the first half, he looked incredible. So my question is, what do you think his best position is? And what can he produce for us this season?
I don't know what his best position is yet. I mean, we've got a lot of half-forward options, so he can play there, but maybe, the form he's in, he's better used elsewhere. I mean, with Hutch out, maybe it is on the wing. Does he have the tank? Not sure if we've had enough of an insight into whether he can go on the wing for a full 4 quarters. But that's something to monitor because it can be a taxing position at times. Obviously, he's got the burst off half-back. And the way they're using him now in fits and bursts in those different positions is okay. But maybe they just start him on the wing on the weekends and let him have a crack and just see how it pans out. And then if he needs a break up forward, we'll then use him there. But he's adding a lot of pace to our team, of course, but energy. There's an intangible that comes with certain players, I think, where they energise a football side. And when he gets the ball, you see some other players really start to lift. And when he kicks a goal, the smile on the teammates' face is very popular amongst the players. You can see that. And he's got that intangible.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
A little bit of energy that lifts the side.
So I just think you want him around the ball. So whatever role within McQualter's system allows him to, whether it's half forward and you come up to the stoppage, whether it's half back and it's free sort of wheeling, free roaming, or whether it's the less defensive winger, like whatever that role is that allows him to be able to burst from stoppage, get handball receives, get creative. Like when he's got the ball, things are happening. And I think, isn't that what our game plan now when we have the ball is all about? Like we're moving, we're tapping the ball on, we're handballing, we're doing little kicks, like we're finding spaces, like we're moving the ball quickly. And so you need guys who are good at moving the ball quickly, who can make fast decisions, who can make good decisions. So to me, it feels like he's the man. He's got to have the ball in his hands. That was really, really exciting. I loved every bit of it. The other thing was we got to see Ryan Marrick playing that role down back from the start. So what did you think of how he slotted in?
Liked it. I thought he got forward and used his kicking skills well. Thought he had a good game. There was a moment late in the game where he got exposed one-on-one and his opponent took a mark and it wasn't his fault and he got really filthy. And I like that because it showed the passion in regards to his defending. So he settled in nicely. He looked comfortable in that new position. There's a player I want to talk about as well, Drewy, who deserves a bit of kudos. And he started the first 2 weeks really well. Even against Gold Coast, I thought he was one of the few who could hold his head high. And he was excellent against Brisbane, and that's Tom Cole.
Yes.
Now, I know he's a bit of a whipping boy for some, unfairly.
Not on this podcast.
Not on this podcast, but for some. I think he deserved to have his position put under question leading into the season. Minnie's given him the nod, and I think he's repaid him. I thought he was really good against Brisbane. I think there are some who should just give him a bit of kudos rather than looking to smash him all the time. He started nicely. He looks fit. The pace is still there. We know he's tough, and his skills have been fine. A couple of moments against Gold Coast, but the whole team was under pressure there. So, you give him a bit of an out. But he started nicely. He's had to fight for his spot, and I think he's fought really well. So I think he deserves a bit of a tick. He's one that I've liked. And Liam Ryan, and let's talk about his game. I mean, he misses the first one, but then he looked, we said it in the build-up to the season, he's looked as fit as he had in a number of years, and that came to the fore at the Gabba.
Oh, I like the way that he was striking the ball so cleanly. Those set shots was awesome to see him flying for marks. It was, a bit of a taste of the old Liam Ryan, which is so good to see. He makes such a huge difference to our front half. Like we look a lot more potent when he's playing well and when he's fit. Like a 3-goal player who can make something out of nothing, who can take contested marks, can do amazing things. Yeah, I mean, it allows us it suits our game style, moving the ball quickly, being creative with ball in hand. So good to see. Like, as an Eagles fan right now, knowing that we're not going to win on a huge amount of games, being able to switch on and be like, I'm going to see Liam Ryan's going to do something today. And he's going to be exciting every time he's near the ball. Like, that's massive. Like, I was watching Essendon live against Hawthorn in round 1. And every time Isaac Kako goes near the footy, the crowd lifts. You feel like something's going to happen. And probably to a slightly lesser extent, Caddy as well. But having those kind of players in your team, it makes such a massive difference. Just the viewing experience is elevated. Same with Tyrell. So it was awesome to see. All right, let's talk Harley Reid. He's honestly been the most talked about person in the AFL over the first 2 weeks. It is quite extraordinary to the point where I'm now thinking, is he going to be okay? With all this scrutiny, like. Are there certain people in the media who are trying to run him out of town?
Yeah. I mean, to your second point, are they trying to run him out of town? You don't quite know that. I mean, I'd like to think that it hasn't got to that point, or there isn't that sort of an antagonistic side to it attached, but it's getting pretty ridiculous. And look, round 1, we get smashed. He doesn't need to be highlighted in the manner that he does. And look, he was poor. He had a bad game, and I get it. Getting in fights rather than trying to fight for the football, I think he deserves some criticism for that. That was fair. And he was just frustrated, and his fitness is not quite there, and he's 19 and he's a bit raw. So that stuff happens, and hey, that's all right. And it follows on from him, getting suspended last season when he cops a tag, and he's got some of the angry pills, and all right, that's sort of understand some of that. He has the incident with the Brisbane Lions fan on the weekend. So, natural that's going to be turned into a few headlines. But I actually thought his game on the weekend was really mature. Doesn't touch it in the first quarter. Then has 15 touches, 6 clearances, 7 tackles. Yes, he gives away 7 free kicks. Needs to be mentioned. He needs to cut down and be smarter in that regard. I actually thought he played a really mature game of football. He won clearances. He linked up nicely. I thought everything that was said to him about just playing your role in the midfield and working into the season and getting your fitness up and just being patient until it's at 100% and you can rip games apart like he did on a few occasions last season, just let it come. And I thought there was a sign that was happening. So what's really annoying me is that you have commentary on some of the shows last night where it's got to the point that it's become so extreme that people are almost making him out to be like a dud number 1 pick. When he was the AFLPA best first-year player last year, ripped 3 or 4 games apart, did things in a rookie season that were mind-blowing, one of the best first years we've seen from a player. And with 2 games into 2025, he's 22 games into his career. And people are talking about his actual on-field output in a really detrimental manner. That I can't understand. And that's why it's just gone so way beyond the pale.
Yeah, normally a 19-year-old in any profession is allowed a little bit of time to develop and grow and have ups and downs. He's a victim of probably the high standards that he set last year in terms of not just the way that he played, but the level of excellence, the highlight, you know what I'm trying to get at here. It wasn't just that he played well. He played well in big moments. He did amazing things, kicked amazing goals, noteworthy performances that were being seen by everyone across the league. He hasn't been given the chance to develop behind the scenes. It's just been in front of everyone. And then, Kane Cornes has been talking about him a lot, even going back to last season. And so that conversation just continues. Kane Cornes also criticised Nick Dacos after round 1, and then Dacos came out and had 36 and 3 against Port. So anyway, so I just hope he's okay, and I hope his family's okay, because I just cannot imagine having to put up with all of this and be discussed in this way in public. And I just hope that it doesn't make him hate the AFL experience to the point where he doesn't want to stay in Perth anymore because he doesn't want to have to put up with it. And it's not just the WA media, it's the national, football media as a whole. It's been good to see some people come out in his defence. Like Luke Hodge spoke about him, saying that Harley reached out to him to have a chat. And I think, geez, if you're going to pick a potential mentor, I think Luke Hodge is right, towards the top of the list, because there are some similarities in the way that they've come through, country boys, and not as fit as they probably would like to have been early in their career, all that sort of stuff. We don't need to go too deep into it with Harley and his conditioning. But yeah, that's where my thoughts are with his welfare, to be honest.
Yeah.
And,
you're right. It's the first time you've actually started to worry. Like a lot of the back page stuff last year was fun.
Yeah.
It was putting pressure on him, but he was sort of reveling in it a bit as well. He likes the big stage. A lot of it was a bit of fun, and it got silly, of course, but it never felt like it was going to damage him. But now it's getting to the point where it's so early in his career that, yes, I think you start to worry, is he actually going to enjoy the AFL experience? And his talent will allow him to get through it. People will point to Jack Watts, but the problem with him is he never quite produced or had the ability to burst through it, unfortunately. Harley does, so not too worried in that sense. It's more that he's not going to be enjoying it as much as he should be. But I think the Eagles' response has been really good. I think McWalter stood up for him well, loved his comment about taking the theatre out of the game and to the Brisbane stuff, which, he probably knows that it's the wrong thing for Harley to do, but it's a time to stand up for your player, considering everything that's going on. Liam Duggan spoke really well about him yesterday. It could be a blessing in disguise for us. You got the people in the East who are making all these disparaging comments. Inside the four walls of the Eagles, we're supporting him and backing him. Maybe he thinks, well, this is the place to be for the next couple of years. It doesn't look that way at the moment in all the sentiment. We'll get onto Chad Warner in a moment as well along these similar lines of that. It's not going to work out for the Eagles necessarily this year, and he might be off, but who knows? Maybe if we rally behind him and we have a couple of good results in the next few weeks, things might change. And you might feel as though, the Eagles have got my back. I'm going to have their back for the next couple of years and commit for a little bit longer.
That's what we really need right now. There needs to be serious rallying around Harley within the club to make him feel like he's protected, like we're on his side. I think everything that we've seen publicly suggests that is the case. So speaking from a West Coast fan perspective, the best possible thing that can happen right now is for Harley to come out this weekend and play really well and have a moment, like kick a great goal where he can beat his chest and let out some of that frustration, the sort of thing that's going to be replayed. And it's like, okay, Harley's back. And that just, everyone then will shut up if he comes out and has, just cuts out a couple of the undisciplined moments or those frustrated moments, and then everyone can quiet down. The other thing that hasn't been talked about, at least not that I've heard much, is that he doesn't have his bodyguard. Elliot Yeo's not playing, and Elliot, I think we talked about it a lot last year, but I think we're seeing right now what a difference Yeo made. Like having a guy next to him, and I think you talked about it. You were like, good players gravitate to each other. Yeah, Harley knows how good Yeo is. Like they're both gamers. Not having him out there with him, maybe he feels like he doesn't have his bodyguard, his protector, his partner in crime with him, and that's affecting him. I've got no doubt if Yeo was out there getting in the faces of his opponents, putting bodies on, and then also Harley seeing this guy who's just an absolute sicko for the footy and putting his head over it, and being the wild man inside the centre square. I think it's going to make a huge difference when Yeo is back, and he couldn't come quick enough for us and for Harley. And maybe it might coincide nicely with Harley's fitness being back to where it needs to be. But I just hope he has a signature moment in the Derby. I mean, I hope we win. I hope we win by 200 points. But, if Harley has a good moment, just quietens down everyone, that's going to be good for us and good for him. And the other thing, which won't happen, but I wouldn't mind seeing happen, is for Harley to do a press conference and and put a human face on what's going on. And even if it's like a little bit staged, so speak to the journos and go, look, we're not here to, we're not doing this because we want to hammer him. And if you could show some restraint, that will be greatly appreciated. But we would just like to have Harley Reid in the headlines where he takes back control of the narrative and says, yeah, look, it has been a bit tough. And, I'm only human and I'm doing my best. I understand there's still things in my game I want to work on. I take the criticism on board, but, I'm here.
Keep it sensible.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm doing my best for the club. I love Perth, and I think that takes back a bit of the power. I just don't think that's going to happen, but I think it's something that Harley and the Eagles should consider.
Yeah. Can't imagine it will, but it's a fair point. Even if it's just an organised one-on-one chat with, one of the TV journos there or something in print, where it's not quite a full room and he can just sit down in a relaxed manner. Maybe that would be good for him right now and a bit therapeutic as well. Yeah. Potentially to get his word out there. So from the one player, a big name involved with the Eagles, to the other, although he's not one of ours yet, but that's Chad Warner. Last time we spoke, we were pretty confident he'd be an Eagle at the end of 2025. That's all changed. The Swans have played it really well. Credit to them. They've actually been very tactical.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free And you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Their efforts to try and keep Chad Warner a little bit longer. And they've gone away from the long-term contract and they're focusing on just a 2-year deal and big money to get him through a free agency. They've given his brother Corey a 2-year deal, which is smart. They're playing him in the team, which is clever as well. They're going to pay Chad, if he does agree to stay at Sydney, massive money. And then in 2 years, he can make up his own mind as to whether he wants to take free agency then and go to WA. And for them, it's smart because they're in the premiership window. They realise if they lose Chad Warner and don't win the flag this season, it changes things for them dramatically. 2 more years of Chad with Errol and some of the others, and they can give it a real crack to get over that premiership hurdle. So it makes complete sense from their point of view. And by the looks of it, it's going to be the move that works for them in terms of keeping Chad for 2 more years. And we might have to wait a couple more for him to become a free agent in 2028.
Well, I held on to that story for the first night of AFL Tonight where I said that he was warming to staying. Maybe I should have gone harder. Because, it certainly seems to have swung very strongly in the Swans' favour. I mean, I think it makes perfect sense, let's be honest. 2 more years at the Swans, have a huge crack at winning a couple of flags, and then you get to free agency and then you can reassess your options. And it would help us 2 years down the track to not have to give up a huge amount of draft capital to get Chad. But the thing that worries me is that I feel like we went through last year's trade and draft period thinking that we were going to have Chad, which means things are a bit out of kilter. Like we could have, in the last few years, we could have taken a really good gun young Victorian mid other than Harley Reid, and we haven't done it. And maybe last season it sort of felt like we don't need to draft Jagger Smith because we've got Chad Warner coming. And I don't know if that's correct. That's just my interpretation from the outside. So you're a bit worried. Are you at all worried that there's no guarantee that we ever get Chad? Certainly not for the next couple of years. And now we sort of put our eggs in that basket and now we don't have him.
Yeah, I'm not sure it was so much to do with the way we approached this year's draft, because I think we thought it's such a deep draft. We're going to land one of these 3 players. It's worth moving down the order. And, we get Liam Baker as part of that. Now, whether that's going to be the right deal or not, we don't know yet. So let's just wait and see how that pans out. But they got Bo Allen. They're really happy they got Bo late. So the Eagles are comfortable with that decision. Let's see how Bo turns out, because he might end up being a superstar. And we'll say that it was the right move. And Liam Baker helps us for the next 3 years move up the ladder. And we'll say, well, that was the right strategy at the time. I think more in terms of, the Barras deal and storing those picks, that was more for Chad. Yeah, I agree with that. But hey, who says we can't use them for someone else in the short term? There's going to be other free agents. Who says we can't target another quality young midfielder in the competition, get them over on big money, give up some of those picks for that and still have enough for next year's draft? We've got some wriggle room there, but we just might have to wait for Chad for a little bit longer. And yes, the benefit is we won't have to give anything up if we do get him in 2 years' time, but it also might bring Freo back into the equation. Might bring us into the equation for Cozzy Pickett end of this season, though. Although it seems pretty certain that he's going to go to Freo, you would think, and perhaps he doesn't suit our needs right now of a true blue chip midfielder that we do need. Just on the derby on the weekend, because I've got to go, Drewy, the changes will be interesting. So Jack Graham comes in, who goes out? I think Clay Hall maybe keeps his spot, but Noah Long's under a bit of trouble, I think, in terms of keeping his spot. I think he could be out. He hasn't done much in the first 2 weeks. So he could be one who makes way. And if Jake comes back, wouldn't that be a massive boost for the derby? Maybe we just play a bit taller in the forward line if that's the case. Or if Archer Reed's not right because he limped off against Brisbane, maybe Oscar Allen has to play some second ruck. Yeah,
they'll have a decision to make there. I mean, Petruccelli probably drops out. He's the obvious one. And then Long's had moments, but just nothing concrete. And the fact that Brockman has been so good means that he probably slides down the pecking order. Cripps was good last week, as we know, and then Owies has made a solid start to his career. So, he might be the one that gets squeezed out, which is not a bad thing. Makes him go back and work hard and add extra layers to his game. But I think Clay Hall deserves his spot. And then it sounds like Graham's definitely back. Let's, fingers crossed for Jake, the snake. But can't wait for the derby. I mean, Freo are going to be bloody fired up. They need a win desperately. There's a lot riding on the game for them, but, they've shown they're not playing their best footy right now, and we look pretty good. So I think it's going to be, a pretty tight, entertaining affair. That's my hope anyway.
Agreed. Don't think we will win, but we can, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm excited for the game on Sunday night.
Hope is what we're looking for here. That's all we need.
Exactly right. Thanks, Drewy. Thanks, Nesters. Let us know your thoughts on anything we said on the pod today. And, keep talking everything Eagles. We love it. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.